All right. Well, I'm sitting here with Charlie talking Cash Crop today. You guys are going to be going on a tour soon, so we're going to basically just get into that and talk about. You guys just put out a record, Roar Out the Hiss. Why don't you tell us about that?
It was recorded at Earth's Edge Studios here in Costa Mesa. It's a studio that the other two guys in the band, Josh and Chris, own. Tracked it there. Our friend Tim Davis did the mixing on it. I personally can't speak for the quality of the material. Maybe it's good, maybe it's bad, but I think they did a pretty good job recording it. I think Tim did a hell of a job mixing it. So, has 8 songs on it. They're loud and fast sometimes, I guess. Even the ones that we think are, slower actually ended up pretty much faster than we think they are in our heads. So, I guess that's the best way to put it. What you say? It's a dissonance? You tell me, Vinny.
Well, I definitely have given it quite a few listen-throughs, and it's got a very dynamic aspect to it, very abstract. And it also has its very straightforward moments, but even then, like lyrically, trying to dive into this stuff, it's definitely got some dimension to it and some dementia, some pretty twisted stuff and some pretty good subject matter that I think, I would like you to elaborate on and tell people really like what you're trying to get into here with this record.
Musically, I guess it comes from. It's very hard to try to bring together a bunch of really disparate elements. I think that, there's things that are obvious that we like, things like, things like Fugazi and Drive Like Jehu and Unwound and early Sonic Youth probably come through in the sound of it. Obviously things like Gravity Records, hardcore, and, even crazier, wonkier things like, we all really like Botch, we all really like Converge, we all really like Don Caballero. But I would say that lyrically it comes from a place that's a little bit closer to maybe something like John Darnielle from the Mountain Goats, or something like, I don't know, I don't want to say, Johnny Cash or Graham Parsons, but maybe an older idea of storytelling. I guess the main subject matter of a lot of the material is sort of about the beauty of failure or non-recognition of people who were not given their fair shake, I would say. The first song on the record is about a basketball team from Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, called the Edmonton Reds. They were an all-women's basketball team that existed from the early 1900s to the early 1940s. And over the span of the team had 500 wins, 20 losses. It's a loss every 2 years. Competed on the Olympic level and were never given medals, given any recognition. And there's no real memories of them. There's no biographies. There's no movies. It's just at the most you're going to find a Wikipedia article. There's a song, In Case There's a Trap, is about the last Japanese soldier left in World War II was discovered on an island, bunkered down somewhere in the mid-1970s. Brought back home and did the TV circuit, but ended up living his life fairly miserably after that point. And there needs to be a question at some point of what happens when our means for living and the things that actually drive us are taken away from us, and what we do with ourselves from that point. There needs to be a cathartic element of those emotions, because I feel like everybody feels a little desperate and a little helpless, and I guess, fucked up in the common vernacular. A good amount of the time, and sort of reminders to yourself that as bad as you think you have it, you're never going to freeze to death on a failed Arctic expedition. Things like that are just a little bit, maybe they help people ground themselves a little bit more over the course of their day. I know that the songs do that for us.
Yeah. Well, coming out of Costa Mesa, California, and I have some personal experiences. I've spent quite a substantial amount of time there growing up, living around the city, seeing the different sides of it, and the disbursement of people and of culture and of class and race and all that, and really the lack of community there, being as it's just such a confusing place. And how do you feel that people kind of take to your record, or maybe if they just have like a lack of interest in it, or if they how are people taking to it? Do people kind of tend to understand? Like, are people taking notice?
I mean, for people to understand, I feel like they would have to notice. I would say that, honestly, we do pretty well in San Diego. We love it down there. We have a ton of people that are some of our closest allies, some of our closest friends. We've met some great bands like Small Talk and Alias and, Moose Jaw, Beside Myself. But it's kind of, this may sound weird, but all of those divisions, all of the things that keep everybody separate, they're very weird in your day-to-day life here. I will say that. They definitely influence the way that you sort of interact with the city and the landscape around you. It's almost an urban landscape, but it's not. It's probably the closest thing outside of what maybe Fullerton or Orange, the traditional Orange County area, really has to a larger metropolitan area.
Yeah.
But that being said, it's kind of nice to exist sort of in a cultural vacuum here. We like the fact that we get to sort of be left alone, and we get to develop at our own pace. Everything that we do, I feel like, gets to be a little more deliberate, a little more thought out, and also felt out, because we don't have a huge hometown following. When we played, the last time we played in Costa Mesa, we played at the Avalon Bar, and there were literally 5 people there, including the bartender and the door guy. And they're great people there. We love the people at Avalon. They take care of us, and they seem to have a patience for us that we don't understand. But I will say that it is, the people that we do end up interacting with are people like you and a few of our other friends from around here that end up sort of understanding where we're coming from a little bit better. And that makes it, if not easier, at least a little more productive. The local confidants that we have, the bands that want to be cool or whatever, the traditional view of bands from Orange County, California, they don't really apply to us. All of those rules aren't there. And so we find that we need a pure sort of, that sounds lame, but a pure sort of person, people that are attracted to what we do on an intellectual and a musical level, and we appreciate that. That being said, this is a very weird place to play music. As somebody who has been in bands based out of San Diego, San Francisco, and Boston, Massachusetts at this point, this is definitely the most non-supportive musical community for things other than Accepted North that I've ever existed in. I don't think that people from here know who we are at all. I don't think they care, and if they knew, I think they would probably fucking hate it.
Well, it's a good way to look at it. The way you said, the way you essentially put it is that Costa Mesa is pretty much just a petri dish, and you guys are a living, breathing little bacterium there, just spawning and creating, and you guys are left to your own to just create your mold and just take over, So, you're definitely doing it to a good thing, because you guys made a good record, and, whatever vacuum that is, it has created something good with what you guys put out. So, I know that I appreciate it, and I know that people that are going to be checking this out appreciate it. So, hopefully something can...
We try to be, to a certain extent, almost defiantly from here. Because otherwise, how else will people know that anything is going on that might be to their interests? I feel like, we, at least at first when we started playing, we felt like that no one around here really cared or was paying attention. And that's basically turtle. You have to accept it at a certain point. When you're playing loud, dissonant, fast music, that's just, it's not tailor-made for everybody. It's not something that necessarily everyone can enjoy. I can completely understand how my 78-year-old grandmother has no interest in what we do musically. It's just not for her. And that's not to say that if some 78-year-old person who really liked it, showed up, then I'd be opposed to that. But you understand. So it's definitely, this is just a very weird place to be from. It's bizarre.
Well,
so
you guys are going to be hitting the road here pretty soon, and you guys have plans for tour. So
well, we're doing I think 7 days with Wagner Tourist of Water. They're from Boston, Massachusetts. They're some good friends of ours. They're great. They're going to be here February 8th through the 15th. We're doing San Pedro, Las Vegas, Murrieta, Costa Mesa, San Diego, Los Angeles, and San Luis Obispo with them. And then we're going to be going out to New Mexico for a few days in March with our really good friends, the band Squid from San Pedro, who are very much worth everyone's time. They're an instrumental space rock duo, I guess, for lack of a better way to put it. And they're just great. We really love them. And hopefully we'll be doing a few other random things. We try to figure out what we can really do with the time that we have. Everybody in the band is getting a little bit older. We're all 28 or 29 at this point, and so you have jobs and you have the ladies or whatever you want to call it at home, and trying to figure out sort of what time you can make. But at the same time, the band becomes a little bit more. I will say that when we started playing last year, we wanted to play maybe 5 or 6 shows. As a whole in 2012, and we ended up playing more than 50, and it just sort of started snowballing, and we couldn't really control it, and that seems to be happening now, and we just start talking about going further and further places. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, if there are any bands from far-flung foreign locales listening to this that would like to come to California, that would like to create a tour where you are, hit us up. Holla at your boy.
Absolutely. Yeah, well, this is Sir Charlie from Cash Crop, and you could check out their stuff over on cashcropca.com, or hit up their Bandcamp, which is cashcropca.bandcamp.com. Go give them a like on Facebook, go to their fucking shows, do something. Especially if you're from Costa Mesa, because that shit fucking sucks. And
listen to Hemorrhage, and listen to the Deep Sea Goes, and listen to Serial Hawk, and listen to Reviver, and support the LHS out of Pomona. Okay? All you people listening, do all those things.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you, good sir, for your time. And
thank you very much for having a conversation with me this evening, Vinny. I hope that we get to see you on Monday at the Avalon Bar, and that when Air Tourist of Water would really appreciate it. So listen to the record by Wagner Tourist of Water, too.